and welcome to How to Stay Married So Far. I've got one of our dogs here with me, snuggled up, so if you hear strange sounds, it could be Mark, but it might be the dog.
She's chewing her toes. I think she is.
So I'm going to get right to it here. This is, today's episode is entitled, Do You Ever Say Yes to Intimacy Just to Keep the Peace? And that's because I found it a very catchy title on an Instagram post that made me click on it, and then I listened to it, and I thought that this would be a really valuable conversation for Mark and I to have from both female perspective and male perspective, which, I mean, that's our USP, baby.
What, the fact that I'm male and you're female?
I'm male and I'm female, and the fact that we don't beat around the bush. We talk.
I love beating around your bush.
Shut up. Okay, so here we go. I want you to listen to this video that I clicked on, this Instagram reel. So here we go.
Would never, ever make me sleep with him. But he would nag me, he would guilt me, he would compare me to other couples, he would repeatedly remind me how long it's been. We'll have difficult conversations about it. He'll roll his eyes and he'll pull away from me when I say no. He will punish me with disconnection and frostiness and tension. There'll be an atmosphere that's really difficult for me to be in, maybe difficult for the kids to be in. I'll be labelled as the problem for not aligning with his sex drive, and I will just feel like I'm constantly on eggshells. And then I'll do it to make the pressure stop, to make the guilt stop, to make it all stop. But he didn't make me sleep with him, okay?
Wow.
So
that's quite heavy.
I found that very, very powerful, and I know that a lot of people listening, and also we always have to caveat here that this can be the other way round as well. And that this is quite a broad spectrum. So you could have somebody that is viciously, coercively controlling and almost violent in their use of whether you have sex with them or not physically violent, but violent in their behaviour, right down to somebody like on the other end of the spectrum that might just get sad when you're not having sex with them. Basically, I suppose what we're talking about is the emotional pressure. And I would say that I've never had a relationship where this hasn't come into play at some point.
Right.
Some of what she says there.
Yeah.
I think that I am very, very, when it comes to sex, I'm very sensitive to there ever being a feeling that it is transactional, that for me and whomever to get on, for me and whomever to be happy, for me and whomever to clear up an argument, if there is sex, obviously sometimes you can have that as a two-way street, but if I'm very sensitive to it ever being a bargaining tool. I've always been very attuned to it, and I don't like it, and I could even notice it in someone when they don't notice it themselves. Right. So I think that, and having had many friends over many years and all kinds of different friends, I don't know a single woman that hasn't spoken in the way that woman did just then in some way.
Right.
Not the berating and the way that you look and all of that. I find that on the other
I find that
extreme
a kind of
level.
coercive control.
But certainly like, oh God, he's going to be a bit moody, or he'll be a bit this, or like, oh, it's going to make things a bit uncomfortable, or he's just going to be quiet, or oh God, we'll have to have a bit of a miserable face in the morning. All that is so familiar to me, those conversations between women. So I know that side of it really well. So just initially, what do you get from that video? What's relatable about that to you? And then we can talk more about the different reasons maybe that happens. But
Well, a number of things. Well, the first thing it reminds me of, the whole concept, this whole topic kind of reminds me of a quote from the Megan Nolan book where she says, and again in this Megan Nolan book, Acts of Desperation, what it's called.
It's a brilliant book.
Brilliant book. There's a line where she says something along the lines of, "I had sex with him to stop him wanting to have sex with me," which for me just went to as a man reading that book, it went to the heart of a truth that I recognised and understood. Now, in the book, he was being overbearing and pushy, and you could argue
But I loved that you noticed in that
non-consensual.
book, because we both read that book. Actually, there is a review, both of us did it on that book.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
On the channel. And I think that you've quoted it before, but I loved that you heard that in that, because there's many men that would have just read past that or not even noticed it. But I think probably somewhere, maybe for you, it chimed in like.
Yeah, no, totally. So one of the things I want to say is I'm going to talk. When you played me this earlier and you said, "What do you think of this as a topic?" I think this is really important because, as a man, as a father to daughters, as the son of a lesbian, having grown up in a very feminist, upbringing, etc., with its own incredibly contorted and what's the word, sort of volatile aspects to it. So it wasn't just an idyll of feminist kind of perfection. No. It doesn't work like that. But this really speaks to, I think, a taboo within couples, and I really need to caveat, you've just done it, but I need to do it for myself because I'm just about to speak about my own attitude to this in me and in relationships and in our relationship too. We're all on a journey of self-improvement. We're all on a journey of awakening. We're all awakening around politics, and we can awaken about not just our own behaviour, but our attitudes and how we conduct ourselves in relationships, however much one likes to think one's feminist.
Hopefully all learning and evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really resonates with me. And I don't even say I hang my head in shame, but I know that I have for sure felt negative emotions, been moody, felt aggrieved, felt ignored, felt, I'm not legitimizing these emotions. These are the feelings that I felt at the time. Abandoned, rejected, sort of, invisible, all those kind of things.
God, all the things that you say about you and your mum, isn't it interesting?
How's my mum got to that?
Well, that's how you felt as a child.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't quite like that.
No,
sex. In
that angle, we're going to talk about that later, about the difference of that.
Right.
Often, sex is affection for men.
Yes.
They don't know that, but it is about human touch.
Right.
No, it's just,
I'm not unwilling to go there. It was just quite a sudden.
No, but I just couldn't.
Handbrake turn.
I just couldn't let that go without
Right.
going. Those are all the words that over the years you've used to describe how you were left feeling in your childhood.
Yes.
Invisible, rejected, not wanted, not seen, not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. And I also can remember feelings of real self-pity. Poor me. Why not? Come on. And I say all of those things with my head hung in shame, because it shouldn't be that transactional. But again, it's about context. It's about where you're at in your life. And the reason that quote stood out in the Megan Nolan book, Acts of Desperation, to me, I literally think it's a quote that should be almost tattooed onto every man's arm, because it speaks to the absolute pressure that so many women feel in so many relationships. And when women feel that pressure from men, we're not talking about horrible men. We're not talking about men they don't love. We're not even talking about men who aren't lovely.
We'll take it away from a brutal, horrible. That's not what we want to talk about here. We want to talk about the everydayness.
Exactly.
Of this,
and I think
the grind of a relationship where that becomes a currency to keep the peace.
And this is a catch-all. This is not an attempt to legitimize. I don't want to feel so hesitant that I can't just be honest. So you get it. We know what we're talking about here. But I think if there was one common factor to all of the moments that perhaps I emitted dissatisfaction, mood, etc., it's fundamentally a fear of rejection and a struggle to negotiate, because men are programmed, I think, differently around sex. We are more transactional as a gender. I hate to say it, I think we are, and it's something that we can fight against. It's something we can push back against in ourselves. And I think men, more than perhaps, I don't want to speak for all women, but maybe men feel that sense of validation and connection only when it's kind of accompanied with a sexual component to it, so that when it doesn't happen, it goes to a place that's not even necessarily a thinking process where you're going, oh, I'm going to throw a strop, but you become stroppy because you're to quote Four Lions, you've got your confused face on. I think most men at that moment get their confused face on if their partner doesn't want to. And just my final thought before I throw it back to you is, I do sometimes though wonder when you play with that quote, it is a wonder that a couple that everything kind of conspires for the right circumstances, that either couple is ever in a position of wanting it totally equally. How do you measure that? To what extent is there ever a situation where one person is thinking that way less or more than the other? And that can work both ways. I mean, I very much think, you could be more up for it, and I'm like, oh my God, I literally don't fancy it tonight, or I'm exhausted, or whatever.
What was that?
Very rarely. But do you know what I mean? Sometimes I marvel at the idea that there's ever a kind of moment where it actually, you go, oh God, we're coming
and
together.
Maybe that's a good thing to say, a lot of the time we're doing well, folks.
Yes.
But I think that this is going to be really difficult for some people listening to this. I can almost hear what some of the comments are going to be, which is, but he won't talk to me.
Right.
We can't have this communication.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's all about communication.
Yeah.
When we've been most like she would describe here, where you've been, and we've spoken about this in previous podcasts, haven't we? We've talked about, just after having children and menopause, when you are, you're feeling so weird in your body, when if you just had a child and you're breastfeeding and you've fucking been, stretched and pummeled and all those things, and,
right.
and what always my advice has been to the men is, take yourself out of the equation. Don't be selfish, be selfless. How can you be of service to this woman who has gone through all of this? If you open your heart and think, how can I serve her, you will feel more love and more protective, and you will tune in to what she wants rather than what you need to feel validated because you feel left out because she's breastfeeding and she's not looking at you and she doesn't want to say. You cannot in a million years imagine what is going on in her mind and in her body. You can't just conjure that up. So the only way you're going to understand it is to really look at her and see her and really listen to her and hear her. And this is the greatest advice you will ever get, chaps. That is an aphrodisiac. For a woman who is feeling upside down and topsy-turvy with everything in her life, you do those things. Forget about the fucking flowers. Forget about all of that. Think about that. Because that is when you can actually deepen your connection whilst you're not having sex, right? But the biggest mistake is to, and I understand what happens, because I think sometimes if we're just taking just after a baby, there's going to be fear that's going to come in for that person. Oh my God, maybe she doesn't fancy, maybe she's
it'll
never
come back. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, this baby. Stop, pause, adjust, think, breathe. Don't panic.
Right.
Because it's more likely that you're going to move towards that if you strop out, if it comes about you, if you sulk, if you get irritated. She's going to pull away from you because she just hasn't got that space and energy to look after those feelings of yours, because she's got a little thing here that she's got to keep alive, and her body and her brain feel so different.
I just want to explain, I do think that sometimes what can kick in for men, because we are, whether we like it or not, the simpler sex, and I mean simpler as in simple. I do think sometimes if I look back and if I think about it, this idea of the mood extending beyond, say, the disappointment or whatever that exchange of emotion is between each other, say in bed because you haven't had sex, or there's a sense that we haven't had sex for a long period of time, For men are thinking, oh my God, we haven't had sex for like a month. And your partner, a woman who's going through all these changes in her body, isn't thinking about time, isn't thinking about how many times. We've had a discussion about what is the right number of times to be having sex, how often do people have sex, etc. And a lot of people hold a lot of stock in that we're not having.
People like you.
Well, yeah, no.
I remember you once saying to me, my God, if we carry on having sex in the amount that we are,
we're going to have sex 3 more times.
Then this is the amount more times I'm going to have it in life. I looked at him, I thought, I wanted to say to him, are you totally fucking insane? How did you think that was going to work for
I was
me?
doing the arithmetic. I'd gone in. No, but hang on. But and this again, none of this is a justification for really horrible coercive control.
That. This is just
no. But sometimes on social media you have to reiterate that thing a million times.
But
the point I would like to make is I do think what can sometimes kick in, and I know this is the case for me, is that what's interpreted as a mood, and that's not to say it isn't moody behaviour, can sometimes be, as a man, one is never left feeling nice about knowing you're feeling aggrieved or whatever you're feeling.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant feeling.
No. And I kind of, I don't know why I keep reaching for that quote that sports teachers say, why you're cheating, you're only cheating yourself. I mean, the ultimate loss is to you because you're not having sex. You've alienated your partner, so it's even less likely you're going to have sex. But equally, you are feeling not nice about yourself. And I think there are, and this is where I want to do a bit of advocacy. But I also want to do a bit of advocacy for men. We can all sulk, women sulk, men sulk, and we can all feel pretty horrible about ourselves after we've sulked. And when we know it's not the right actual response, we can all do things and very shortly afterwards go, that wasn't right. And I think that really speaks to where I get to on that, because what
would your advice be then to a man who is still stuck in the sulking phase, having been a sulky yourself?
Well, I mean, I would just think beyond that evening. Don't be thinking about that evening. Think about your partner. Think about where she's at. Just comfort her. Or if she doesn't want anything to do with you, just think that's tonight. I think one of the problems I have with everything, and I don't know whether this is my neuro-spiciness or diversity or whatever, is it feels like it's all and everything now.
Yeah.
It's the nowness of it that we get hooked up on. Yeah, exactly. It's like we're in bed now, it's happening today, and today is emblematic of everything. And I'm a catastrophist, and I think it's easy to kind of telegraph and expand out from an intimate situation that goes wrong or doesn't happen, and your expectations were one way and actually they went the other. Just calm down. My advice would be just calm down, because it's not all over and it's not all changed tonight. And actually, and that sounds like it's not putting your partner's experiences first. Your first thought should be, what's wrong? What's going on? Cater for her. But we're talking about a situation where you're in a mood. And so you haven't done that. You failed on that already. You failed your partner because you haven't been considerate. But if you're in that mood place and you find yourself in that mood place and you've been inconsiderate that night, just fucking calm shit down. I would also go so far as to say, remove yourself from a situation where your partner feels any continued sense of guilt around it.
It's like a short-sightedness. It's
Utterly.
like, because the thing is, so say we take some of what that woman said, my partner's never pressurised me into having sex. Oh, he can be cold, it can be a bit of an atmosphere in the house, it can even upset the kids because they don't really know what's going on, but it's a bit weird and mum and dad aren't speaking and kind of, but they aren't. So, and then I have sex with him and it's better. Does he know that she has made that transactional decision in her own head to keep the peace? And if he does know,
does he care?
How do you live with that?
Well, I would call that a Pyrrhic victory, because there's no victory.
No, but there will be those that don't give a shit because they just want to get their
No, I know.
But what about those that are caring?
Yeah.
And so, there will have been times, not necessarily in our relationship, in other relationships, where that would have gone on. Have you ever kind of in your heart known that this is just, they've just taught themselves into this because it's all got very uncomfortable?
Yeah,
how has that, and wait, let me finish. And how have you felt after the sex?
Well, I would say that when that's felt and it's so you've accepted that you've had sex, you've made love, and it's partly been because she's kind of acquiesced. It's not been overt, but it's just been, you can know and you will know. And I would argue that will be at the heart of what is wrong with your relationships. Everything else it's another that
Cover
the
up.
fact that has
It's a
happened is a
cover up.
symptom of everything and many other aspects of your relationship that aren't working.
It's a cover-up, isn't
No,
it?
but I would say that what you feel as a man in that situation, I mean, we've been together for so many years, I'm trying to, there's just...
Well, okay, well, even with me.
Yeah, so there would be a feeling of emptiness and loss and like I'd really not had your back or our trust between each other in the relationship.
And does it do anything? Because I think what happens too often is people look for the glue, like people have glue babies. No glue babies ever kept people together. It puts you further apart. I think there's glue sex. Let's glue this back together. Let's just put the cracks. Let's just glue the cracks and just hope that it all goes away. We won't discuss anything. We won't communicate any better. We'll just get back to the next time there's a crack and we'll just glue it up. And then that can go on and on. Unless somebody at some point says, like, this isn't working, I think it's a disastrous way to carry a relationship on. Just one thing, when you said that, when you've had sex or when you make love, right, that many times in my life has made me feel sick when men say make love.
No, I know.
I don't like it.
Right.
Because we were talking about, the times when, like, you might realise that maybe there's been a little bit of emotional blackmail or sulking, whatever. And you said, so when we have sex or when we make love, it was really interesting watching you because it was like that's a lie that men say. And I think a lot of women don't like it when they say it because it's not really about making love. It's about getting a shag. When you haven't really 100% thought that person wants to.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
I hear what you. No, I totally
That's
hear
where those words.
No, I totally hear what you're saying.
Stick with the person.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I totally hear what you're saying because I would say that you can sometimes really make love, and it's really just about having good sex. It's about authentic, connected sex.
Yeah.
And I suppose what I'm trying to distinguish by saying making love versus having sex is that I think anyone who has sex with someone in a relationship or in a partnership, in a marriage, whatever, one night stand, and there is that connective aspect that's not there, or there's an element of one has wanted it more than the other slightly, not to the point of not wanting it, consent's there, but really one was more into it than the other. It is always felt and it is always known by both parties, I would argue. Now, I think a lot of men will turn that into I don't careness quite quickly. They'll be like, I won't let it affect me.
I got what I wanted.
But fundamentally, I, as a man, know that no man could not know whether or not a woman. No, and that what's kind of chilling. Hang on, let me finish my thought. What's chilling about that is it speaks to those men who take control of situations and are incredibly sort of predatory, etc., etc. There is an element of total disconnect that men can kick in, which is a form of psychopathy, I think, in the strength factor and the power aspect of sex. I mean, obviously, I don't put myself in that category, but men that we would all think wouldn't have any of the nuance to know that, nor the capacity or emotional intelligence to care.
Or the will.
They know.
Or the will, yeah.
They all know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because
I'm thinking of individuals like Potato Head. They, regardless of how they make up for it in their estranged, contorted, weird masculinity, that's why their masculinity is so fucked up. Because they know that they haven't had that sort of meaningful sex.
Not, I suppose just by our anatomy we're not programmed for that because, we're just not programmed.
I would argue, I'd go further than that. I would say, and obviously it's coming out soon, isn't it, the Louis Theroux film, I would say many of the men in the manosphere are like they are because actually, fundamentally, deep in their dark reservoirs of their heart, they know they haven't had proper, connected, respectful, equal, consensual sex.
Oh, I don't know if they think like that.
No, they don't think like that.
I don't think they...
No. I'm not saying... You're not getting what I'm saying. This is not a cognitive thing. They're not thinking it. On a primal, biological, fundamental, primal level, men know when it hasn't worked, but they don't have the language, they don't have the inclination, they don't have the respect. A lot of men just turn away from it. But even good men, will silence that voice because it's not a
Is
nice
it
voice.
always, is it a realist, do we just have to be realistic? Again, not going to the extremes of this video. Realistically, when you love somebody and you're with them for a long time, sometimes you do have sex because it's a nice thing to do and everyone feels better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So realistically,
I mean,
there's no such thing as like all through your relationship you're going to perfectly, like you say, both want sex at the same time and both like...
Well, I can think of times in relationships where I've had sex where I've not wanted to, but I haven't felt used. I haven't felt
very
abused.
No,
I know. And as I say that, I realise that. But at the same time, I haven't felt any, as best as a man could. I've never
just ask you
felt...
a question. How does a man have sex when they don't want to? How do you get an
Well,
erection
because
when you
unfortunately, if you're being... Well, do you really?
don't... No, I genuinely...
Well, because there are certain things that can arouse you, and it's like despite yourself.
So no, explain that. What do you mean when you don't want to? What, you might not be feeling warm towards them, but
Well, you might be feeling tired. You might be feeling not amorous to begin with, and then you will get to a place where you get there. But it's a lot. It takes a lot more effort to get there. But once you're there, it's like, oh, okay, now we're.
Yeah.
But your fundamental baseline, say that night, would be absolutely. I'm not. Not that you're thinking I'm not up for it, but you're not thinking in those terms.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the same for.
And I've never had a situation where I've thought, oh God, I feel really taken advantage of, or like I've been, not at all. No.
But as I say, we're not going to the extreme of taking advantage of, because neither have I. But that one, for the sake of peace.
Yeah, maybe.
Because things have got, But then again, is it also something, sex, that it's okay sometimes to use, if you've got a little crack, you're not some great huge vase that's totally broken, you have to slather on the glue. But is it also a tool for reconnecting?
I think it can be.
Yeah.
I think it can be. And I think that's an important part of sex that can sometimes get over ignored, is that actually sometimes I think a physical intimacy, not always necessarily the literal act of sex, but sexual intimacy can be a great, sort of microwaving of connection. It might not last particularly longer than that night or that evening, but it can be, I hate
to quote Peter Andre again, because I've done it before in this podcast. Sorry, Peter. But when we were, because sometimes we do loose men and loose women together, and I just asked the question. I said, is it that if you are not having sex with your partner, you think they don't love you? And he went, yeah.
No,
he went, for me, like,
yeah, but no, well, he's a good,
then they don't love me.
Well, maybe he's a good example of that. So I do think there is just what's what I mean by, sorry, Peter. That's what I mean by we're quite simple. It's not that you can be as complex as any other person, but when it comes to these matters, I do think men are, rightly or wrongly, pretty damn simplistic and childlike and stupid and moody and I, when I think about, circling back to that quote by Megan Nolan, it's one of the cleverest and most on the money quotes about the contradiction and the inherent power dynamic and pressures of male-female relationships. It just speaks
but that's all of this.
Yeah.
It's like, rather than have the pressure of you wanting to have sex with me, even though I don't want to have sex with you, I'll just have it. Rather than have the pressure and the moodiness and all of that. But something
else I would like to just throw in there, though, I think one of the things, and again, this is probably a mass generalization, but I think one of the things men struggle with, I think men operate in a much more, and this is by and large, men operate in a more linear fashion in everything. And I think women operate in a much more cyclical fashion for obvious reasons, in terms of the cycle of life and the fertility and all the rest of it. Men work narratively. So we go beginning, middle, by and large. You get lots of women who are like that too. And I would say they are more in touch with their male side. And I think that what happens sometimes in relationships is men get really panicky, confused, and stupidly not understanding of the fact that things have to shift across time. I.e., what I'm talking about here is you can't forever stay in the honeymoon period. Relationships are ebb and flow. There's going to be moments of intensity and closeness and shift and, the waves of a relationship. Men, if I think of myself as a younger man and you were telling me that, say, before we were together and in the first 5 years, what? What do you mean I have to get to... What do you mean coming back?
That means you don't like them. But it reminds me of that podcast that we did a while back about men that have affairs, and we were quoting that guy about, it makes me feel alive.
Oh, God.
I need to feel alive again.
Yes.
And by feeling alive is by somebody wanting to rip my clothes off.
Yes.
Which I actually found quite sad.
Yes.
That's... You know, I was just thinking, in all of my relationships, maybe I'm just in this really privileged position. Because when I go, oh, well, you know, men see it as like, if you like having sex with me, you don't love me. But I've never experienced that. So
what?
Maybe, well, I've never been in a relationship where the person hasn't wanted sex with me.
Yeah.
So maybe I laugh at that because I've never felt it. I've never felt like, oh God, they don't want sex with me. Does this mean they don't love me? Which probably I would.
Well, I don't want sex with you tonight. So stick that in your fucking pipe and smoke it.
Believe that for 1 second.
Problem is, I'd have sex with you every night.
Yeah, well, okay, that's enough. But so maybe I laugh at things like that because, yeah, I've not experienced that. Maybe I too would think, oh, this person doesn't love me. Maybe I would start to quantify sex with them loving me or not. I don't now. I mean, I never have. I've never thought, God, I mean, fancy, yes, but I've never thought, oh my God, if you don't want sex with me for 2 weeks, sort of say, then I wouldn't start thinking, God, does he love me anymore?
Right, I would. Still, probably, if we hit, I mean, if I, okay,
let's not get into dates and times.
I'm not getting the Google calendar.
I see you running towards it.
I'm not. But if I do, I can sometimes, I mean, maybe it's just a male thing, I don't know, I suppose if I feel amorous at a certain point, I'm a huge fan of, like, Nadia calls it.
What the fuck's he going to say? He's going all wistful now.
No.
He's lifting his eyes. His eyes are going a bit glassy. If you're listening on podcast, you can watch him on YouTube. It's quite interesting.
I like what Nadia calls post-match analysis. As in, you know, you've had a football match, but you we're not having a football match. No, but you know, I like to reflect on it. I like to indulge in memories of it, or I like to go, oh, you know, and then when I do that, and then we haven't for a while, I do kind of go, God, when was that then? I sort of, and then I do get my phone, and then I do go check. Of course, I fucking don't know what the hell I was looking at anyway.
Did you put it in your phone?
No, I don't put it in. I'm saying when thank God we had sex. When was that? I don't ever look at my calendar to remind me of anything.
Your phone?
I don't put anything in my phone.
Okay. I'm going to check your phone.
Okay. Watch out for the porn.
Good chat.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Tell them to do what they have to do.
And, I don't know, just say shit about us.
I've got the horn now.
What a go through for you guys.